Tree. Um, you know, I don't have the answers. I thought the best way to come to a conclusion of what's the best direction, how to deal with the homeless situation, was to invite people who may have some knowledge with it. I've got Terry Stawar here, who is the CEO of LifeSpring. I've got Brad Cummings, who is the street commissioner of Clarksville. I think in the past there's been some things done correctly. I think in the past there's been some things that have been done incorrectly. And I don't know if the three of us up here or anybody in this room has the answer of what is the right thing to do and the wrong thing to do. I think our intentions are to do the right thing. So I thought this would be a great forum to get this going. There will be more than one public meeting, but you know, since the city suspended sweeps, it does seem like there has been more and more of an obvious showing of homeless and their needs. I can tell you there is some public safety issues when I look out over the past month and I start seeing tents 2 feet off of a road. You know, I'm not just concerned with what people see when they come into our city, but I'm also concerned about the public safety. So that is an issue that we need to get addressed immediately. And how we go from there, I guess we're going to find out today. But we as a city cannot sit back and say, that's okay, we're going to allow that. Hopefully the input we get today will help us address that issue. With that being said, I'm going to hand this over. I think the less politics that are involved in this issue, the better. And I believe Terry here, as a facilitator, can probably guide us a little bit better. Let's please be respectful of each other. There are differing opinions in this room. Everybody who wants to speak will be given up to 3 minutes to come address their issues. Again, let's concentrate on fixing the problem. Let's not concentrate on how something shouldn't have been done. I have no problem saying there's been things that haven't been done right, but let's try and get to the answer. Let's not feud over what's been done in the past, right or wrong. So with that, Terry, would you please take over?
Sure. I want to welcome everybody. I was thinking this morning, it's the coldest day of the year so far. It's really appropriate time to have this forum. We've got people out there in the streets suffering right now. We've got a real issue here to deal with. And I appreciate the mayor's comments that the purpose of this is to try to find creative and new ideas that the municipalities and the government agencies can help implement as soon as possible. And really, passions run high with this. People have very, very strong feelings on this, and all have good intentions. So let's keep those feelings, in check to some extent, but don't lose the passion, because I know a lot of you are just really passionate advocates for this cause. We want to start out with a lot of public input. We want to get as many ideas as we can, and I would ask you one thing to think about while you're giving your insights. To try to come up with very specific and concrete proposals, ideas, suggestions that have the potential of being implemented sometime in the future. I think we have some handouts, or we'll have some handouts that kind of explain the problem itself and some of the causes. And I think most of the people in here are expert enough. They've heard a lot of those things. We don't need to hear all the explanations and all the book learning about it. Your personal experiences are what we're interested in. Your personal opinions are what we're interested in, and your specific suggestions on, what can be done, what city ordinances need to be had, what kinds of resources are needed, what creative new ideas can people come up with to help address this problem. And with that, I'd like to start out with the public testimony part of it. Again, we're going to have a whole litany of speakers, and we're going to try to limit that to 3 minutes apiece. So do we have our list of speakers ready?
First up, Laura Fleming Balmer. Laura Fleming Balmer.
I'm here, but I didn't sign up to speak.
Oh, let me, Nick Lawrence? Okay. Well, according to this, there's only 12 people here. Brian Brown?
That's a sign-in sheet that was being passed around.
Yeah, we don't know the difference between the
Okay.
two.
Well, I tell you what, let's do. Let's try and limit this to, say, 10 speakers. Who would like to be first? And if you would, just for the record, ladies first, please come up and state your name.
Beth Keeney is going to be our recorder, and she's going to try to pick out any specific recommendations or ideas and try to keep track of those as we go through our speakers.
Hi, my name is Marilyn Zapp, and I run the Nurses Health Project at the Haven House, and I have for 2 years. It's just 2 nurses. My proposal is definitely to get together the health providers for the homeless. We need better contact between the Clark County Emergency Room, Floyd County Emergency Room, some physicians in town that serve the Medicaid and Medicare population, the mental health facilities. We just need to coordinate our health care better. I could tell you some stories that will curl your hair, but I wasn't prepared to talk today, but since I had the opportunity, I thought I would take it. I also would like to encourage anyone that knows any nurses that would like to volunteer with us at the Haven House. Only have 2 right now, myself and Ann Receiver from New Albany, but I would like to have other nurses, whether RNs or LPNs or anyone that's interested in providing for health care. We are funded by donations, and I have had a donation recently because of an article in the paper of a prominent businessman in New Albany. My daughter's magazine in New York provides us with $500 a year. And we also got an award a couple years ago from the Southern Indiana Women's Association that we applied for a small grant. So we have very limited funds, but we try to do the best with them that we can. So my proposal is to get together the health care providers, especially the emergency room physicians, again, anybody that serves the homeless, the mentally ill in this community.
How have you all reached out to Clark or Floyd County Hospital?
We called a meeting the very first year. My friend and I, when we started this program, we met with the mayor, the Clark County Myers, Clark County Health Department Director, Mike Myers. That's how we started, of course, with Barbara Anderson, the director of the health of the Haven House, and then we had meetings with the emergency room staff, asking for cooperation. And
Were you given any signs of cooperation?
well, yes, we were, but there's a lot of issues that really we need direct contact. We have a problem with even communicating with some of the healthcare facilities because they don't recognize us, and we can't, from HIPAA violation, they can't discuss anything with us. So, we just have some issues of how ordering medications that we can afford instead of ordering medications that are out of our reach, and not ordering 120 Percodan for someone that is not able to handle them. There's just ongoing, and I don't have them all ready here today because, as I said, I wasn't planning on talking. But even the pharmacies, I have trouble with giving flu vaccinations this year. I had to practically beg a pharmacy to sell me, and I was willing to pay for them, the syringes. Clark County Hospital gives me 20 doses a year for flu vaccine, but then I couldn't buy the syringes. We need to be recognized so that we can help the people that we serve.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Sorry.
That's all fine. Next
Paul.
speaker.
Hi guys, my name is Paul Stendrad. I'm with the Exit Zero Ministry. First, I want to thank you guys for being here and finally seeing that we do have an issue here within our local community, not just Jeffersonville, but Clarksville. I think this is the beginning step of trying to get all of the providers together, and I just can't thank you guys enough for being here. But I do want to reference regarding what you were mentioning, Mike, because with Exit Zero, we understand that the tents, that's not where we want them. We don't want them out on the streets, but our issue is housing. You know, the only thing that's going to fix this issue is permanent housing. You know, we can give and give and give all we need to, but the ultimate solution is they need a home in order to stay in. Even a shelter is temporary, but the problem is they're overfilled. They have nowhere to go. When you look at Wayside last night with the cold weather, they were actually cleaning up their feeding area just to lay down mattresses, just like the Haven House does on cold nights and hot days even when the white flag is out. So housing is going to be one of the issues, but regarding the issue with the individual with the tent on the street, we were 100% behind you on that, Mike. We were trying and trying and trying. Several of us went down and told Mr. Johnson that he cannot be there. But here's the problem. We've got mental illness that's involved here. But most importantly, Tom rolled off the viaduct, broke his leg. How are you going to truck into a tent city through the mud in a wheelchair, through rocks, through, dips and all? This is the only safe location that he found. We did not tell him there because we understood that location was off limits, and that's what we told our guys. Everybody followed except for that one man. We tried for several months to get him to clean it up. We finally went in and removed that for you guys. This is what we'd like to do. I can't thank Brad enough, because with Brad, the example with the street department, what we want to do here is whenever Brad has a tip or a complaint, Paul, can you please check it out for me? Let me know what's going on. Clarksville police are the same exact way. If there's an issue, they're wanting to try to communicate with us. And I think that's going to be one of the ultimate things is communication. I think if we don't have the communication, how can we get something narrowed down to help somebody or help the individuals we serve? How can we help them if there's no communication amongst all of the different agencies? So what we're going to propose is we're actually on our website, we're actually working on a forum, a bulletin board more or less, to where we can communicate in a whole. So when we have an issue in the city, Mike, you'd be able to get on there and say, hey, we have an issue in this particular area. It would only be seen by certain individuals, just like this homeless task force you're trying to develop. And that way we can say there's an individual underneath this bridge. Here's his condition. Who can help us? And then possibly Beth can step out and say, hey, we can help him with this part. Barb can help him out with this part. We can help him out with another part. Not one agency is going to be able to tackle this, guys. And there is a lot of success stories. Yes, there's a lot of horror stories, but in order to get to the good, sometimes we got to get through the bad. And we just want to thank you guys, and we're here to cooperate with you guys. We want a relationship one-on-one with you guys to work wholly with these individuals. And we try to provide them the local resources. We're already referring them into the local community. So a lot of the resources know who we are. I just think we need to come to a table once a month or something to discuss this on a monthly basis. I don't think a meeting quarterly or anything is really going to impact this, but I think monthly meetings with the organizations together to knock this thing out, to come up with some solutions. But Mike, I agree with you 100% on the tent. The viaducts, I agree that we should propose a law here with the viaducts where we placard it and saying, look, you got 48 hours, but all we ask in replace of that is let us know ahead of time. So we can go in, get the guys prepared, we can get them moved, so that way, as two individuals here from the last sweep, everything was taken, and then if it wasn't a ministry like us or a Haven House even, where would they have gotten their supplies in order to stay warm the next day? So these are the little things I think communication can open up, but most importantly, just working together as a team. I think that's what we need to do.
Thank
All
you,
right?
Paul.
Thank you, guys.
Please.
Hi, my name is Brigetta Lindsay, and I'm a former resident of the Haven House. Oh, my name is Brigetta Lindsay, and I'm a former resident of the Haven House. I'm standing on my tippy toes, I'm sorry. I was not only a former resident, but I broke the record. I was there 13 different times over a decade. A lot of family problems. Some of the times that I was there was by choice. I didn't want to live with a dysfunctional family, so I went there. I'm not really here to try to change everybody's lives or give great options or ideas. I just want to give my personal testimony briefly, so maybe you can gather your own ideas and formulate plans and such. Barbara has helped me so much over the past 15 years. I had a lot of problems, needless to say. And because of the structure that I gained from the Haven House, I had no structure in my life whatsoever. I was able to learn the ins and outs of the homeless on the street level, more than what going to school could do for me at that time. I do understand that there's a significant problem with drugs and alcohol. I don't know, I haven't heard it mentioned yet, but there is a serious issue where drugs and alcohol is concerned with the homeless. They can't make good decisions. They can't think wisely and make the correct decisions they need to be functional in their lives, because a lot of the alcoholics, and the drugs, they just keep perpetuating the mental illness, the comorbid factor with the mental illness, because a lot of them choose the drugs and the alcohol. They're not getting sober, so they're remaining homeless and continuing to make bad choices over and over and over. Because of what I learned in the Haven House and the homeless shelters to be structured, I'm now a behavioral sciences major with just a few courses away from getting my degree and certification in substance abuse. It's my passion to try to do something. I don't know what yet, but I just want to do something to help. I know what it's like. And I know that they don't have to remain homeless. A lot of them don't know what to do, but I think absolutely, without a doubt, education and work towards the preventative side rather than just the cure. But I think education is absolutely very important.
How would you, and that issue's an obvious one, but I guess the dilemma has been in the past, obviously, everything that's getting talked about here requires money. But
Right,
we're talking
absolutely.
about an issue with alcoholism and drugs. The police in the past have come down and, looked for everything. I mean, they've looked for drugs.
Right.
They have looked for outstanding warrants. How would you propose, and you may not have the answer to this,
Yeah.
but the education of, I think that sounds good, but I don't know how you could implement that.
I don't have an exact answer. I'm wondering if, I don't know how many shelters offer drug testing. I don't even know if they do that. But I'm concerned because they're not being targeted, they're not being helped because of those issues. It's kind of like flying under the radar. I wish I had the solution, immediate solution, but you're right. Almost everything takes money. The funding has to be there. But I believe that unless a person goes outside of themselves to help others, they cannot help themselves as much. And I would like to see even the homeless being more involved in trying to help each other. I don't know how that, I don't know the actual plan that needs to come about, but I do know that I could have remained homeless, but I chose to, with no money, not a penny, to rub together with another penny, to go out and do something to help other people. I, with no money, built a website. Barbara can tell you, for the homeless, for the Haven House. I went, and I'm a photographer also, and I volunteered, and I took the pictures with Santa and the kids, and I designed the format, and I did all the write-ups. I built the whole website, and noticed there was not a donate to PayPal, so the funds could come in. I am not a rich woman. I don't have any money, but I have a passion to want to help, I just think that education, they're not getting the education they need. But that's
All right.
my contribution for what it's
Thank you.
worth.
Sounds like a good story there. Please.
Brigetta sells herself really short because she raised 3 children? 4 children. It was a lot of kids. And she did a fine job with them. And part of that happened because at that time, there were supports in place in our community. Things like transitional housing, things like mental health services. But those programs have been cut and decimated. If we don't think this isn't going to take money, we're wrong. It is. No investment, no return. Homelessness isn't going to go away unless we as a city start to plan effectively for poverty, because that's what it's about. I'll leave these. These are the new Hearth Act changes the whole game in homelessness. But part of what it does is eliminate and really strips some of the supports that are currently in place. Like the state of Indiana is veering away from transitional housing. Part of what helped Brigetta in her journey was having transitional housing. If she hadn't had it for 2 to 3 years, she wouldn't have been able to do what she did and to stabilize. So as a community, we need to plan for what we need, not for what everybody else is telling us we need. And drugs and alcohol, we do drug testing, and it is prevalent. But people can't afford the test. There's a new test out for spice. One of the worst things we have to contend with is spice and bath salts. And there's no way we could afford those tests. So even if the city cannot fund directly, they can do ancillary funding, like maybe having the police supply us with some tests for those things, or city services like garbage disposal that would save those of us who have to provide services thousands and thousands of dollars a year. Whether it's soft money or hard money, it helps us to continue to go on when we don't have to worry about that. Feeding intolerance and treating people as if they are secondhand citizens are things that are happening all across the country, I'm with the National Coalition for the Homeless, and one of the things that we find is that there are more anti-friendly ordinances than friendly ordinances. We can't do anything without permanent housing. That's just a reality. So there shouldn't be a unit of public housing torn down while we have people living in a shelter or while we have people living on the streets. That doesn't make sense. What we need to do is build our community adequately, and we need to look at how we can do that. We have right now, I think, an ordinance in place that does away with any kind of low-income affordable unit of significant size. I think we have a limit on it. But the fact of the matter is we have more poor people in this community than we're willing to admit. And how do we house them? How do we get them into training programs? Federal programs like workforce development have been gutted. So how do we train our workforces, and how do we give them the opportunity to look at us as a part of our community? We do have to plan with the homeless, not for them, because the people who come to our shelter, and there were, by the way, 819 unduplicated served there last year, 1,479 people served by our organization. 347 of those people were families and family members living in hotels and motels all around this city, the largest in Clarksville. So you have a shelter, America's best. And it's not the only one. I mean, Wayfair Motel, Crest Motel. We have got to deal with issues like prison reentry, because in Clarksville, the Crest Motel is full of people who are felons, and they can't get jobs. So they're desperate, and they will do anything they can to survive. It's the only place right now that will take them. And there is no real planning process in place for us to plan for any of these populations. It is not going to be cheap to deal with the issue. But cities are going to have to deal with it, because if you don't deal with it, then you do have tents. And I brought some handouts, Mayor Moore, for you to look at that are about tent cities all over the country. So in that, I'd like to tell you that we have a growing number of children and families who are homeless, and those folks didn't do anything. When they come out to you and they are 2 months old, 4 months old, 2 years old, they did nothing to choose this life. And we as a community do have a responsibility to them. So I would hope that we begin to step up and continue this process.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Please. Let me just say, I think we all recognize there's some harsh stories here. What we really want to get at today is not a rehashing of harsh stories. We want to find something that makes an improvement. So if we can kind of concentrate on, ideas you may have, or things that have been tried that didn't work out, we can all sit up here right now and say, hey, we need money. Okay, we can leave now because we figured out the problem. We all understand we need money. What we need are suggestions and ideas, and that's what we're trying to do here today. Let's use this time wisely.
Mr. Mayor, and all the people gathered here today. I'm Jim Moon, and I'm the pastor at Park Memorial United Methodist Church. I'm also the cluster leader for the Methodist churches in Clarksville and Jeffersonville. And I want to offer a concrete solution to at least one little bit of the problem. At this point, on the white flag days like today, it's people laying on top of people. I mean, we know that. And I want to offer Park Memorial as a place to help with that, if it can be used in some way, any expertise that we can offer. I think there's a bigger pull here in the city of Jeffersonville, and I think in Clarksville with the churches, if we are going to work together to help to come to some solutions to this. I think that's where the heart for people who are in these kind of needs, or these kind of areas, are really going to be found. I think there is a money issue. I think there's a transitional housing issue. I think there's a permanent housing issue. I think there's a day shelter issue. I mean, there's lots of issues, and they're going to be vast. But I think one thing that we can help with, I mean, we have the facility. We don't have all the transportation. We don't have all the mats and everything, but we would be willing to house some of these people in a transitional white flag sort of way overnight in circumstances like today.
This is something your church does not do right now.
We don't do it right now, but
we're
and I'm sure there are
offering-
probably other churches that would be willing to do it if there was some transportation. I know that we're sleeping people on top of people right now at some places. But I think we need to find a day shelter, a place where some of these people can get some of the training they can go to. They can get on some computers. They can do their laundry. They can take showers. There are things out there that meeting some of their basic needs day to day can get them one step further to where they need to be. But like I said, Park Memorial is with the city in whatever decisions they make, and also we're with the Greater Jeffersonville, Clarksville ministry clusters together with you.
How many Methodist churches are involved?
Seven. And then there's another ministry cluster that is our sister cluster, the River Ridge cluster, has another 6.
Okay, because, I mean, that's what I have seen as a business owner and being around Jeff, is a lot of the volunteer and assistance comes from churches. So you're saying we've got...
When we're looking at these people, we see the least of these. We see the people that if Jesus were here, he'd be about ministering to. We see that, and that's where our heart is. And I know there's a lot of finagling for dollars and grants and all that stuff. I could really care less about that. I care more about seeing people fed, see them housed, see them cared for in some way that with some dignity. And I think pretty much that's the heart of everybody here. We want to see them cared for and treated with the dignity and respect that is due a human being.
All right, you're me.
Yes, sir.
How do you fix this?
Well, I think it starts with what you're doing right now, listening to people. I would do an immense amount of study. Cities like Atlanta. One of my buddies, Andy Odell, is in Atlanta. He works there with the Church on the Street, and they do a great deal of things just like what we're talking about now, and they have even a bigger problem. I would look at some of those other possibilities in other cities and how they've made some decisions, because some of them have been very positive, some of them very, very negative. But I think we got to do some research. I think we need to maybe even, if I was going to spend a little bit of money, I would hire an outside consultant to come in and look at some of these issues. I would actually come to terms with the exact amount of people we have on the street. What is the needs for actual overnight housing? What are the needs for day shelters? Then I would move into how many actual transitional housings or permanent housing options do we have available for people like these that we're talking about today. I find a lot like what we were speaking of today. A lot of these people are living in the day-to-day, week-to-week situations at some of our motels around the city, and they are one phone call away from one church from being out on the street and in our shelter or under a viaduct. And they do have a pervasive drug issue, and getting them connected to some of these places that are going to actually help them. I know that there are programs available. We connect many of them, but also there's a deal with follow-through too on their part. But anytime there's people with children, that's my number one. If I see kids in there, whatever I'm going to do, however much money it's going to take, I'll pay for them to go anywhere to do anything, because kids are not, the ones that are responsible for their parents' actions and behavior. But I think there has to be some study involved. And I think talking to the people who are doing some of these ministries is a big one. Talking to some churches, some of the leaders, and I'd be willing to go around to the churches and feel out their hearts and talk to them for you Whatever we can do to help, that's what we want to do.
Okay? The other side of this issue is you have people that say, hey, Jeffersonville has become a haven for the homeless.
Yes, sir.
And they don't like the fact that, they're out working and their tax dollars are being used, or the entrances into our
Yes,
city are neglected or, being used for the homeless, and they get upset about it.
Yes, sir.
What,
I definitely lend a compassionate ear to folks like that. I know and understand why I have children. I know that there's issues with safety, and I think that until I would make sure they are assured that we're doing everything in our power to work this situation through. And it can't be, there's no immediate action that's going to actually solve the overall issue. Doing a street sweep is not going to keep someone from going back under that viaduct. It's actually going to hurt that person when their ID card's missing, and then they have to go through this whole process again. And it's actually putting them further back into the cycle of poverty, not pushing them forward and moving them ahead. I think that, plugging them in, I think what Paul said today, just about giving a courtesy call to someone like him who really, he's a beat the street kind of guy. He's not going to, that's one thing I know about him. He's a beat the street kind of guy. He's going to go out there, he's going to find the people, he's going to try to help solve some of these issues. And if he can't, then I think by all means, we're going to have to do what we have to do as a city to make it clean, make it presentable, make it safe. But having some of these channels and the people that really do care about the issue that you can funnel down, and then if it doesn't work, then we have to have the show of force. We know that. We know that that's going to be, and I know that there are people who have some strong opinions, but I don't think that in the other cities that the strong opinions for clean entrances to cities, public safety, I don't think that those things have actually done away with the fact that homelessness exists. Homelessness and poverty and people who need to eat are going to always exist. How we treat them is always going to exist. I would hope we treat them as people of sacred worth, regardless of what decisions and choices that they've made.
and granted, the last sweep was not done correctly.
No.
But
I think that we have to do some of that.
I was gonna say, with proper notice,
Yes, sir.
and I'm one that firmly believes you learn from mistakes. So, with proper notice, are you support of sweeps being done?
I think there has to be some of that. I think there are going to have to be some times when we have to remove some of those public safety issues that are going on. And I think also we're going to have to do a little bit. I think the Jeffersonville Police do a commendable job, but there is a big issue. I mean, Barb was talking about the issues with spice and some of the drugs that are on the streets right now. We know that people have those issues, and most of them are self-medicating because they also are mentally ill, and they've been put out on the street. They don't have access to the public health. That's what we're talking about again with having access to the public health sector where they can actually get the medication that they need. So I mean, you put them back in the prison system, they're not going to get really the help there. It's a cycle. We know this, but we have to do whatever we can. If it's within our realm of possibility for us to be caring to these people, then we ought to do it.
You mentioned a cluster of Methodist churches, but I also know First Presbyterian Church, the Catholic Church.
I think that we all have the same heart.
But, that was one of the things that I had talked about. We need to get completely unified.
Yes, sir.
And you as the leader of the cluster of the Methodist churches, are you in contact? Are you working with First Presbyterian and the Catholic churches?
With several of the churches, yeah, that might be something that we do is call a meeting of the church leaders together and say, how can you help us? That may be something on your list as another alternative thing to do. But I just want you to know we're in support. We'll do whatever it is we need to help you and the city of Jeffersonville.
Thank you very much. Yes, Paul?
Mike, just to let you know that within the Exit Zero program, we have over 30 churches here locally that do work with Exit Zero. Yes, we're in communication with a lot of the other churches because when there's a need, sometimes the ministry can't fill or Haven House can't fill, so sometimes we need to lean towards churches. And honestly, I feel as though if there's a direction somewhere, we're going to get these churches stepping in, but they're waiting to find out first what is our solution or our direction first before they actually start stepping in and engaging in order to support the ministries.
Okay. Thank you.
Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning.
Thank you for this initial meeting. I think this is a great first step. I'm Teresa Boff Perkins, and I live in downtown Jeff. I've lived in downtown Jeff my entire adult life, and I live within the area of 7 churches. I live in the downtown church district, live right next door to St. Augustine's. And there are mornings when I get up and somebody has been sleeping on my porch, which hurts my heart, but it just helps me to understand that we have a huge need in our community. During the tornadoes, I was honored to get to work at the headquarters as a Red Cross volunteer to help those folks. And I saw a huge outpouring from our community of people who wanted to help. And it was absolutely amazing, the number of people that showed up, industries, everybody that came. I'm also a member of a coalition that goes out and looks for animals, homeless animals. We're very busy with that. And it just breaks my heart to believe or to know that there are more homeless people than there are animals in our community. So my suggestion is to establish a true homeless roundtable and get the right people at the table. I think you've got several of them here. And have a strategic plan with action steps. And that's my suggestion.
I'm Steve Fetter. I'm going to piggyback on a couple of the speakers. The assumptions we make about the homeless keep us from really looking into what's going on. One of the people spoke about the drugs and alcohol. We make assumptions when we're self-medicating, not getting into the system. We need to work on that problem. And that's part of Terry's bailiwick. We've talked even about misdiagnosis also. The other problem someone talked about was needing to get people in homes. You can't do that with the low wages. Right now, if you look at homeless shelters from here to Indianapolis, over in Louisville, you'll find 50% or more that are in the shelters work full-time. The problem's the low wages. Most of the apartments or houses that rent around here require 3 to 4 times whatever the monthly rent is. At minimum wage, we can't afford that. Maybe the business owners around here need to raise the wages.
You know, let's be realistic.
I am being realistic.
I can't, this committee can't, we can't make employers pay more money. You know, our scope is to come up with somehow, we're not going to eliminate homeless. I mean, that's not even on the table. We are not going to be able to mandate employers add $3 per hour to a paycheck. We don't have that authority, you know, and so.
Sure we can. We can work with the state government to increase minimum wage. Nine states have higher minimum wages, $9 and above.
Let's
They are
concentrate
paying
on some
above.
things that we can do and be realistic.
We
I think
can here as a group petition our state and talk to our legislators about raising the minimum wage as 9 other states have, and where it's connected with cost of living. Our failure to do that is part of the systemic problem of why we have homelessness. Our failure and our looking at this as, well, we can't do anything about wages. That is part of the problem why we have so many homeless. When you have people working full-time that are filling the shelters, then we've got a serious society problem. It's not just on the individuals that are in the shelters. 30% that live under the viaducts work full-time and can't get into an apartment or house because the wages are too low. That's not just sad, that's a sin. Love thy neighbor as thyself. If the business owners around here think about that, I mean, how many business owners around here have people that work for them living in a shelter. I can guarantee you, if you're paying minimum wage, you more than likely at one time or another have had people living in shelters. That's sad. That's also a sin. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Carolyn King. I'm speaking as a resident on Maple Street, downtown Jeffersonville, though I have worked in community development most of my adult life. And when you work in community development, if you're doing a good job of it, you look at assets in a community, and this is something, Mayor, that I think when people complain to you about the homeless, you can be proud of the assets that we do have in our community. I mean, we are blessed to have Haven House Services, to have Exit Zero, to have Caring People, through LifeSpring, through Center for Lay Ministry. We do have a wonderful safety net that is under-supported and sometimes under attack from politicians and state funding sources. But in spite of that, they persevere, and I think that is what's exciting in Jeffersonville. Because if you were to go by Haven House, which I do occasionally, right now I'm working with tornado recovery and we've used some people there to help with some of our projects, you just see a constant stream of citizens from Jeffersonville and other places dropping off things, helping out there, building bathrooms, giving money, helping with the medicines and things like that. These are things to be proud of, and this is investment by individuals that should be supported. I think the governing bodies are behind the individuals in the community and their support. So I think what the best way we can help this is to do, as Teresa Perkins said, get serious about it, get a strategic plan, understand the issues, coordinate. And sometimes it takes money to even coordinate. We wouldn't build roads in a new subdivision without a plan. We should not be doing, and it costs money to make a plan. We shouldn't be trying to solve problems by just isolated individuals giving good ideas. We need really good strategies. We need to support what we have. We need to be proud of what we have. When cities like Hilton Head, South Carolina, are dealing with homeless issues, it's not that Jeffersonville is unique in drawing people. It's that this is an endemic problem, and we need to address it and deal with it in good planning and celebrate what we have and be very grateful to the people that are doing things. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Mayor. Good morning.
Ms. Wilma.
And good morning to the people in the room. My name is Wilma Sadler Morton, and I am the director of the food program, the Soup Kitchen at Gilt Edge Baptist Church. And we fed nearly 30,000 people last year. And I've listened to the pastor. He took some of my things I was going to say about daycare and the churches. And I listened to the man from Exit Zero. I believe, Mayor, the next meeting should be with the pastors in Jeffersonville and Clarksville to sit down. We do need daycare. At 9 o'clock in the morning, we report to Gilt Edge, and we have people waiting, people that live in the street that have slept outside all night. They need to come in. They need to wash up. We have washcloths, so we have all the things they need to freshen themselves up in the morning. We have coats that people donate. We have all of this, and we do this voluntarily. So to me, the answer would be to stress with the pastors and the churches that a lot of them only open on Wednesday and Sunday in our neighborhood. I know it's about 5 churches. To use these places and ask their members to volunteer. We have a lot of senior citizens that don't have anything to get up for every day. If you volunteer, you have a reason to get up every day. So I believe a lot of them are, if you just ask them, they sit and they don't know what to do. They watch TV and they hear us talking, But if their pastors would open their doors for just daycares, you don't have to feed them. They need places to come in and get out of the elements. Our pastor, Reverend Motley, he had to retire because of illness. But on cold nights, he called the Red Cross. They brought cots and blankets, and we would open our cush hall so people could come in and sleep. So that's what the pastor said. I visit Tucson, Arizona, because I have a son that lives there, and they have a ministry, Casa Maria. Twice a week, volunteer nurses and doctors go to one of their buildings, volunteer, and they volunteer their services. We have so many people that come in to eat with us. They are sick, but they have no place to go. As the nurse said, they have no place to go. That the emergency room, if you send them there, they send them back if you don't have insurance, if you're not dying. So we need more we need to stress in Jeffersonville and Clarksville and New Albany, volunteer to give you something to get up for, and get these pastors to open the doors of their churches during the day and have games or something. You talk about jobs. A lot of people are not qualified for jobs anymore. They are sick. They have prison records. They can't work. So maybe after we get the churches to open up, maybe we can start working on somebody volunteering to train people for something. So that is just my suggestion. But I believe the churches are not being used as much as they could be used. And people are not volunteering. I believe the people need to volunteer more. And like I said, I have one of my partners with me, Edna, and we're both 73 years old. We get up, and that's what gets us up every day, is to come to the King's table and feed people and try to make their day a little better.
Very well spoken, Ms. Wilma.
Good morning, Mayor and gentlemen. Thank you very much for hosting us today. I wish I had an answer, and unfortunately I do not. My name is Matthew Hudson with the Center for Lay Ministries. We have the Bliss House, which is the recovery program for women addicted to drugs and alcohol, to help break that cycle of homelessness and poverty and the embarrassment that a lot of women get into if they lack the resource of being able to get the qualifications and having an advocate go out there in the community for them to place their name with them. When women enter the Bliss House, we average 2 weeks before they're able to find a job. And largely that's because we partner with a lot of different churches and agencies that provide some job training, some resume building, and then just having an advocate in your corner is a big asset as well. And we, like Exit Zero, have a very large network of churches. And I think another important aspect of homelessness is also the means in which we can try to prevent other people from encountering homelessness. Unfortunately, last year we gave away 374,000 pounds of food. And what's alarming for us is that last year we had a 17% increase in the demographic of over the age of 60. And that's what we're continuing to see again this year. Another explosion with it over the age of 60 who are starting to lack that financial safety net. And then also when it comes to employment, just being aging out of the workforce. We're partnering, we're trying to encourage people to sign up with programs like Experience Works, who will place them and they'll be paid minimum wage. But again, minimum wage, of course, isn't always a living wage. So I would just encourage, when looking forward, to try to have some different type of job placements, being able to have access for people to build those skills to be desirable and be able to re-enter the workforce. Because as the gentleman said before, there is no you really cannot just pigeonhole someone who's homeless. Every circumstance is unique. Every circumstance has a whole certain set of things behind it. But what I found is a lot of proud people wanting to work, who's able to work, but just lacking the means to find it. Thank you very much.
How many churches do you directly work with in this area?
Well over 30. We have 20 who give financially contributions, attend Ministerial Society meetings with the different pastors, keep in contact as well. And then we have a slew of other churches who help provide in-kind donations as well.
Thank you.
Hello, Mayor. I would like to thank you for having all of us here to present our ideas to you. I just want to introduce myself. I'm Joshua Martin. I was actually a foster kid from like 14 up. And part of the foster care program is education. They teach you how to go out on your own. It's independent living training. And what I propose is education. But education costs money. So one way, the best way to use resources is to find the most efficient way of using your resources. We have limited resources. We have to find the best way to use them. We have to realize what resources we have available. Part of that is manpower. Manpower is worth a lot. But how many people are out there that have no idea how to help? They don't even know that it's possible to help, and they don't know what problems are out there. So I propose using systems that are already in place, such as schools and churches, to educate youth or even adults, but especially schools and teenagers who around the age of your teenage years, especially like junior, senior year of high school, you're trying to find a purpose in life. And if there were educational programs in place to teach them, about the problems in our community, namely homelessness, if there were programs in place to teach them about that, and not only that, but to teach them what they can do, how they can help their community, then that could take place at a time when they're forming their identities, and that could make our future generations be so willing to help. And you know, it was mentioned earlier that Jeffersonville is a haven for the homeless. Well, I don't see that as a negative thing. I think if a community is willing to help homeless, that they will flock to us. It's an actual good sign of our community that we have abundance to help people. And I propose that we find a way to realize the available resources of just human labor, to reach out to the people that would be willing to help that don't even know that they can or how they can. And but like I said, my training when I was in foster care helped me a lot to be successful in my life. And yes, I've been homeless several times, but it was very short times because I had connections with resources to help me out. And the presenter that spoke a moment ago was with Lay Ministry. I've went to them several times, and it's been a big help. And just knowing that that was there, kept me from going hungry for several nights. So that's my proposition for what it's worth. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, Doctor, and Commissioner, appreciate you taking the opportunity to pull this together today. It's a difficult topic and no easy solutions. My name is Nathan Samuel, and I serve on the Jeffersonville City Council. I also serve as the executive director of an agency locally called Child Place that deals with children and families at risk. So I'm very attuned to this subject and concerned about the subject. First, I would say that I don't think a new government program is our answer. Unfortunately, we in government don't do a very good job with problem solving and providing solutions or doing so in a timely manner. And something needs to be done timely on this subject, in my opinion. Countless agencies that have already spoken or that are in this community, and some that are not even here today, they have the issue that we're talking about in some way, shape, or form as part of their mission. And as part of their mission, they have access to an army of folks through volunteers. They have assets, they have donors and supporters that I think we need to tie into. It's been mentioned already, but the comment I believe that Paul made was that he has a group of at least 30 churches collaborating together. When does that happen? Churches don't do well in talking to each other and collaborating, and that shows that there's a common theme here that people are willing to help. Reverend Moon talked about his offer. Many people talked about, Gilt Edge talked about their efforts. I believe that government needs to use our influence to pull this group of people together and then we need to get out of the way. I think that we're able to, well, let me back up. We do need to realize, and many people don't realize, but we do have laws on the books. Some of those may need to be changed, but reality is we're a community and a nation of laws, and we need to honor those laws. And when people are breaking those laws, we do need to address it, correct it, however, but recognize that we're a community of laws. I think that the government should be able to support the efforts wherever we can as possible. I know that many times a city or cities are able to pull together and apply for funding that maybe other providers cannot even access. So maybe we need to look into potentially using our influence in that effort. And in closing, I would just say that there's already a collaboration out there that's a loose collaboration, and I think we are in a position to be able to pull everyone together and have a very strong network to address this problem. There are many great minds in this room that truly understand the problem much better than I do, and than potentially most of us here. I think that, again, I'll say it one more time, I think that the solution is not for government to establish a program and to try to run it as a government. We need to get out of the way and get those that have the passion and the army of volunteers and donors behind them, let them take it and run with it. Thank you.
Let me just say, Nathan has been involved with this issue long before he became an elected official, and I know he's put a lot of time and effort, and it sometimes has seemed like there is no solution, there is no end. I think we all recognize, he said something very proper. Government is not the answer. It is an entity to assist and help and then get out of the way. And that's why I really think this is you've got to be very careful with this issue, because if you take a stance, you're going to be viewed, if you're an elected official, as, well, that's just politics. You know, my best hope is what Nathan just shared as well. We've got organizations, we've got churches who have volunteers, who have resources. We need to unite them, get them together. If we can assist them in somehow or another, we will do that along the way, but we need to get out of the way. And that's what I was hoping would come from tonight. We've heard this morning. We've gotten a lot of good ideas. We've got a lot of good organizations. Coming together here today was the right thing to do to make everybody recognize, okay, let's reach out to this group, and this group. You know, I'd still like to hear from Brad, because I know Clarksville